For as long as humans have sought to alter their minds, there have been shadowy figures controlling the supply, real people, not just movie villains who have shaped history from the shadows. These drug lords are not a modern invention, their story stretches back millennia, woven into the fabric of civilization. From Silk Road caravans to the dark web, the pursuit of power through forbidden substances is a constant in human history. The people who rise in this world are part entrepreneur, part warlord, part folk hero, building empires, commanding armies, and sometimes toppling governments. Often starting from nothing, they climb to power through ambition and disregard for the rules, only to fall in spectacular fashion. The term drug lord conjures images of Escobar or El Chapo, but their kind have existed since ancient traders bartered opium or colonial merchants forced nations to their knees. The line between business and crime has always been blurry, drawn by those with the most power. In this series, we'll peel back the myths and ask what truly drives these figures. Is it just money or something deeper? Respect, escape, or chaos? We'll journey from ancient poppy fields to modern fentanyl labs, meeting the puppet masters of a trade worth hundreds of billions. At its core, this is a human story about the deadly allure of forbidden power. Before cartels, humanity's relationship with psychoactive substances began in ritual, not crime. Shamans and healers used cannabis and opium for healing, ceremony, and spiritual journeys, tools governed by tradition, not law. The Silk Road transformed this world, turning sacred plants into global commodities. Opium and cannabis traveled east and west, enriching traders who became the first proto-drug lords, masters of supply, demand, and danger. Among the most feared were the Hashashin, a Persian sect whose name gave us the word assassin. Legend says they used hashish to indoctrinate recruits, promising paradise for loyalty and violence, a chilling form of psychological control. The ancient drug trade had all the elements we see today: cultivators, traffickers, consumers, and the use of substances for power. What was missing was the legal framework that would later turn these traders into outlaws. The Hashashin were political forces, not criminals. Silk Road opium traders were respected merchants. The transformation from legitimate business to criminal empire began with the rise of the modern nation-state. As borders hardened and laws changed, the seeds were sown for the drug lords of today. The ancient world reminds us, the drug trade's roots are as old as civilization itself. The only thing that changed was who wrote the rules. The rise of European empires turned the drug trade into a global, state-sponsored business. The Spanish exploited coca in the Andes, paying enslaved workers with leaves to fuel brutal labor. But the British perfected drug imperialism, using opium to balance trade with China. The British East India Company became history's largest drug cartel, flooding China with opium and creating millions of addicts. When China resisted, Britain responded with the Opium Wars, military campaigns to enforce drug trafficking by treaty. The result, China was forced to legalize opium in cede territory, including Hong Kong. This era exposed a deep hypocrisy. Western nations banned drugs at home while pushing them abroad for profit. Pirates and smugglers played their part, but they were small-time compared to the empires. Colonial powers built the infrastructure and market dynamics that criminal syndicates would later inherit. The playbook for the modern drug lord was written by governments, not gangsters. The legacy of colonial drug pushing still shapes the global trade today. The line between state and syndicate has always been thin. The world's first drug lords wore uniforms, not masks. The 20th century's war on drugs didn't end demand. It created a criminal gold rush. Prohibition in the US birthed organized crime as gangsters mastered smuggling and bribery and violence. When alcohol became legal again, these networks pivoted to narcotics. Heroin and cocaine became their new fortunes. Across the Atlantic, the French Connection funneled heroin from Turkish opium refined in Marseille into the US, run by a network of gangsters and chemists. This era blurred the lines between crime and legitimacy. Pharmaceutical companies, intelligence agencies, and criminal syndicates often worked in the same shadows. The CIA and others sometimes turned a blind eye to traffickers for political gain. The birth of the modern drug lord was a tangled web of crime, politics, and espionage. Laws meant to stop drugs only made the business more lucrative and more violent. The underworld thrived on prohibition's unintended consequences. The drug lord became a global player, not just a local gangster. The stage was set for the rise of the cartels. The 1980s brought a new breed of drug lord none more infamous than Pablo Escobar. Escobar's Medellin cartel smuggled tons of cocaine into the US, earning millions daily and wielding power that rivaled governments. He controlled every step, from coca fields to U.S. streets, pioneering new smuggling methods and enforcing loyalty with bribes or bullets, plata o plomo. Escobar waged war on the Colombian state, assassinating officials and bombing a commercial airliner. Yet he played Robin Hood in Medellin, building housing and buying loyalty from the poor. His prison, La Catedral, was a fortress where he continued to rule. Escobar's fall came as violently as his rise, hunted by rivals, vigilantes, and the state he was killed in 1993. His death fractured the trade but didn't end it. The business model simply evolved. The Cali cartel and later Mexican traffickers took over, shifting the epicenter north. Escobar's legacy, a blueprint for power, violence, and myth in the drug world. The king was dead, but the empire lived on. With Colombia's cartels weakened, Mexican traffickers seized their chance. Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo unified smuggling clans into the Guadalajara cartel, controlling U.S. drug corridors. His arrest fractured the empire, spawning rival cartels, Tijuana, Juarez, and Sinaloa, each fighting for control. The result? A brutal public war, with violence designed to terrorize not just rivals, but entire communities. Los Zetas, ex-military enforcers, escalated the brutality. Beheadings, mass graves, and public executions became common. Cartels evolved into parallel states, controlling territory and diversifying into extortion and human trafficking. El Chapo Guzman's Sinaloa cartel rose to dominance, his escapes and folk hero status fueling his legend. Chapo built a decentralized, resilient network, outlasting his own capture. The Plaza system unleashed a monster, violence and corruption that the state struggles to contain. The Mexican cartel wars are a lesson in unintended consequences. Power vacuums breed chaos and new kingpins always emerge. The cycle of violence continues, fed by insatiable demand. While the Americas battled cocaine and opioids, Asia's Golden Triangle became a synthetic drug superpower. Once ruled by opium warlords, the region shifted to methamphetamine, led by syndicates like Sam Gore, the Company. Headed by Tse Chilop, Sam Gore operates like a multinational, producing tons of meth in jungle superlabs. Their business is worth billions, with precursor chemicals smuggled from China and drugs trafficked across Asia-Pacific. The syndicates use sophisticated logistics, money laundering, and corruption to evade law enforcement. Unlike Mexican cartels, they avoid open warfare, preferring stealth and bribery. Violence is targeted, used to enforce discipline or eliminate rivals, not to terrorize the public. The Golden Triangle's transformation from opium to meth shows the adaptability of the modern drug lord. They follow the market, shifting products and tactics as needed. The new empires are less visible but no less powerful. The synthetic era has only just begun. Today's drug lords are often faceless chemists, coders, and digital masterminds. Fentanyl, a synthetic opioid far stronger than heroin, has revolutionized the trade, cheap, potent, and deadly. Mexican cartels embraced fentanyl, importing chemicals from China and pressing counterfeit pills for the U.S. market. The result, a devastating overdose crisis, with tens of thousands of deaths annually. Technology is the new enabler. Dark web markets, encrypted apps, and cryptocurrency make trafficking global and anonymous. The digital dawn doesn't need territory. Their empire is virtual, their identity hidden. Law enforcement faces a new challenge: how to fight an enemy who operates in encrypted shadows. Capturing kingpins like El Chapo is symbolic, but the system is now decentralized and resilient. Chemistry and code have built the most profitable, dangerous drug empires in history. The rules have changed, but the game is the same. The next drug lord may never show their face. From ancient shamans to digital traffickers, the drug lord's story is one of remarkable consistency. The substances and empires change, but the archetype remains. A master of forbidden markets, logistics, and violence. The Silk Road trader and the Sinaloa operative are cut from the same cloth, adapting to laws, exploiting demand. Colonial empires and modern cartels both built fortunes on the backs of addiction and prohibition. The drug lord is a symptom, not the disease, thriving where poverty, corruption, and weak states create opportunity. Killing one kingpin only opens the door for another. The cycle repeats. As synthetic drugs and digital tools evolve, so will the next generation of shadow kings. The real question isn't how to defeat the drug lord, but whether we can change the world that creates them. As long as demand and prohibition exist, so will the empire of the forbidden. The story of the drug lord is, ultimately, a story about us. The shadow kings will always rise, unless we change the rules of the game.